Hi, Vivek, Nimisha. Welcome to the Fables of ESOP podcast. It's great to have you both. How are you both doing?
Good, thank you, Shrikant.
Doing good, Shrikant. Thank you so much for inviting us here.
Lovely, lovely having you both. So we have Vivek and Nimisha from Team Grip. Vivek is the co-founder and COO, and Nimisha is the head of HR and people practice. It's great to have them and discuss about this exciting world of ESOPs. So in this podcast, Vivek and Nimisha, we generally speak with founders, operators, and experts in this world of ESOPs. It's still an evolving world, I would say, given the Indian ecosystem, and it's great that you guys are also doing contributing towards it. So we generally want to share best practices, learnings, and this is just one way for you guys to pay it forward. So thank you for doing this for us.
It's always good to be a part of podcasts like this, which are more focused on things which are oriented towards people and the team members. So
Right.
always a pleasure to be part of these type of podcasts. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely, Vivek. So, Vivek, let me start with you. Actually, it has been a fascinating journey for Grip. I would say, I read your recent article, and I think you guys have grown tremendously during the pandemic, and that's when you guys started as well. And another interesting thing, coming from a finance background myself, and I used to deal with a lot of alternative asset classes in my earlier career. You brought a very relevant asset class, I would say, right, for retail investors. And they are always in this constant quest to graduate from this world of FDs and bank account deposits to more high yield instruments. And you come at a very sweet spot of giving them a very relevant instrument with a moderate risk profile. So first, maybe I wanted to ask you, Vivek, how did you even stumble upon this idea of Grip? And you can talk us through your journey with your founders, and especially this asset class of leasing models and inventory models and assets around that. Yeah.
Sure, sure, Shrikant. I'll talk about that. Let me just give you a brief background about all three of us founders, me, Nikhil, and Ashish. We are the three co-founders in Grip. And uh, to our amusement as well, only Nikhil comes from a financial investment background. Both me and Ashish are engineers. We come from different backgrounds, and we have seen more startups, but not the investment and financial world as such. Our journey, we three met when we were working at Chalo, where Nikhil was one of the co-founders there, and Ashish was a part of the product and the tech team. I was part of the business development team. Um, uh, it so happened that we left that organization at same point in time. We were sitting together thinking about few things, in normal general life, and the idea striked of investment. Coming from startups, we have all seen wealth, creation of wealth, and we had I come from Chalo, and previous to that I was working with Oyo for good 4.5 years. So I've seen capital coming into my bank account as salary. But the problem which I faced, or which all three of us discussed and see that as a common problem, was that we were never able to find adequate amount of resources to invest our capital. If you look at the market today in India, right, for a retail investor, if you don't have a HNI status and you don't have crores and crores of rupees to invest in, you only have practically two or three options which are limited. Right, one is your normal FDs and RDs with bank, which are very very secure but not very high yield giving. You have your mutual funds, bonds. They are bit secured instruments, but again very volatile because all market related. Then third is equity market, which allows retail investors to step into it, and but again very volatile instrument. You can't predict the upsides and downsides of it. As a retail investor, we felt that there is definitely a need of an alternative investment class which can cater to this demand, and especially for retail investors. For HNI investors, there are multiple things. There are multiple sources of capital generation. There are multiple sources of investment. We wanted to make sure that when any of the retail investors thinks about investing or diversifying their portfolio, they should have some alternative assets in their kitty. And that's how we stumbled upon the or Grip's idea was started. First we thought about doing a physical owned property fractionalized investment, but looking at all scenarios of it and giving from the background of our startups, we started to think that startups are all also in a constant need of capital, especially in their asset side of things. And when you put your capital into assets, it is actually parked with a physical visible instrument, which is less riskier, less volatile than the equity play, but little high riskier than the FD play. And so it is a middle layer which we are targeting today, of investments and returns. Our product is definitely not as high yield giving as equity, but it's an safer instrument to be investing in, and a high yield giving instrument. uh, Coming to the lease financing, I think that was the first experiment which we did. Lease financing was our first product. Our
Right.
second product is inventory financing, and now we are getting into multiple alternative asset classes. And with keeping the same thesis in mind, that our end goal is to reach out to as many retail investors as we can and help them build the wealth uh, you know via diversifying their wealth into alternative investments. So that's how we started Grip, and that's where Grip stands today.
Great, thanks, Vivek. That's a fascinating solution that you have brought to this ecosystem. Solving this problem of yield on one side to retail investors, and on the other hand, you're also giving cash flows, valuable cash flows to startups and organizations on those assets, right? So and a validation of this model can be seen in the kind of numbers you're making. So you're growing 35% month on month, and you have already 175,000 investors. That's incredible in such a small duration of time. And something really that excited me was your approach of actually going back to your user base or investors so called, to actually raise money for your equity money for your own company. So I've heard of what is called as ESPP, right, employee stock purchase program, but you guys are doing USPP, like user stock purchase program. So yeah, just wanted your thoughts on this as a follow up. Yeah.
Sure. I really like the word USPP. It's very, very relevant in the financial world.
Sure.
So
Please
thank you
use it. Yeah.
for coming with the idea of this word. But yeah, as you rightly mentioned that in last 18 to 20 months of the journey of Grip, we have seen you know a growth in both side of the parameters. On one side where our users are growing, um, and on the other side we are able to approach so many other companies to deploy the assets for them. um, as of today we stand at 193 crores in total disbursement, and hopeful to cross a 200 crore by this month. um, if you think about, or when we think about this journey is only possible because we have our users who have shown trust into Grip, right? It was not possible without users putting in trust with us, right? And they have taken a significant amount of risk by putting that, right? um, so when I think about this program, it's very, very close to the ESOP program we run within a company. Why you run a ESOP program? We run a ESOP program give to reward the risk for your employees which they are taking today. You want them to be part of the journey of your company, and you want to make them stakeholders in the organization, owner of the product. We think the similar things about our investors. They have already shown us trust by investing multiple times in our product, right? We have more than 15% of our users who are repeating us on a every month basis since last so many months. this type of things tell you that there is a trust among the investors, and you have to reward you. It's your duty to make them part of the journey, make them part of the growth journey which you are doing for yourself, right? So these were one of the reasons why we decided to do this program. We did a successful raise of $1 million from our users. You know, uh, got a very good response from our users when we launched this program. We were able to oversubscribe the number what we had in our mind in less than few weeks of equity raise. So at the end, it all comes down to the users, and now few of our users are our stakeholders, and we are very happy to be able to do this kind of stuff for our users. So that was the thought process behind it. Nimisha, if you want, you can add into this.
Yeah. I think one is, of course, we wanted to go back to our users and, make them feel more of a sense of belonging. But I think in certain quarters, it also came from the users, wherein they liked the product so much and they thought that, wherein they pitched in, why don't we, offer them some stakeholding in the company. So I think it's only the love for the product and the user experience they've had so far, which gave us this idea to go ahead and do this.
I mean, this is so wonderful to hear because this actually takes, think about it, product market fit to a different level. Your market is also demanding us, a stake or a skin in the game because they so truly believe and love your product. So, kudos to you both and the team for your journey so far. And Nimisha, let me actually come to you now because in this recent press release that you released, right, you also mentioned GRIP as a people first and a purpose driven organization, right? And you truly believe in your early employees making disproportionate amount of wealth, and you said that in those words, and not many founders and HR teams actually say that. So would you want to just elaborate further on this larger people philosophy that you are kind of building at grip? What's this about, building a talented organization, rewarding them? What does it mean to all of you? Yeah.
Right. So, Shrikant, like most organizations would start, then have a funnel saying that we focus on the product and then profits and then people. We thought we would reverse this and, start with a people first focus, and profits will come. And of course, when people are so engaged, then put in discretionary efforts to build great products for us. So that's the philosophy that we come from. Also, in today's day and age, where information is so freely available, and everybody can, the people can copy the technology that you're using, people can copy your business models. So I think the true source of competitive edge in today's world of work will be your people. So if you have the right people on board, they are culturally aligned, they are happy with what they are doing, they are engaged, I think you can truly build a great organization. So that's the headspace that we come from, and all of our efforts again go in that direction of building an organization like that. Um, Coming to the fact of wealth building, like Vivek mentioned earlier, that we really want to focus on building wealth for our retail investors, and that's the same ideology that we use internally. That if we have our employees, we of course want them to grow with the organization, grow career wise, but we also want them to become wealthy people. Maybe we are happy to, if some of our employees tomorrow become co-founders of some great firms, so we just be very happy with that as well. So we have that kind of an inclusive and open policy wherein we want those people to grow with us, and as the company grows, they should grow as well. And that's in line with how we've designed the ESOP program internally. There's a very generous allocation, ESOP allocation, that's set aside for the employees. We have a very long exercise period with a very short, with a very small exercise prize. So those are some of the things that we are keeping in mind to make things more employee friendly, and also make them feel like co-creators in this growth journey.
Beautiful, Nimisha. I think everything that you said is so wonderful. And in a way, I think it's no secret that once your employees cash out, where will they park their money? I guess they'll come back to grip. But
Yes.
anyways, and jokes apart, but I think you also kind of touched upon one thing that I wanted to ask you specifically on your ESOP scheme, because like you mentioned, it's very employee friendly. You mentioned about a few parameters. Like the accessibility extended plus the kind of quantum. I think you have also said you have a good pool size to actually reward. This goes back to your people first kind of a policy. So yeah, feel free to add any other indicators. Maybe Vivek, you can also jump in here. And I also wanted to talk about your buyback program next. But feel free to add anything on your ESOP policy. Also from the context that a lot of first-time founders listen to this, and sometimes they are clueless as to what ESOPs are. How do I need to really look at pool size? What is vesting? What is so? Anything else you want to add, Nimisha, Vivek, on this?
So just particularly on the ESOP policy,
Yes, yeah,
what we currently do, and probably share that, and maybe it could just be a sharing of practice. So like I said, we have a generous pool allocation. What we also do is that it's a very transparent scheme in the sense that we would, unlike some other organizations who would only allocate ESOPs, to a certain level of employees, probably the senior leadership or the middle management and over. We, as a policy, give out ESOPs to all of our employees, all of them, irrespective of level, grade, and the job type function. And that is also a fixed percentage of their CTC. So it's not like if you are joining at a lower grade, you will be given a lower percentage as ESOP, as a percentage of your CTC, the ESOP will be lower for you. It's a fixed percentage given to everybody. So we want it to be a very fair and transparent process, and wherein nobody feels like they've been undercharged in that sense. Also, we use platforms like Cupida to make them see how their ESOP valuation changes once the company raises more funds, and basically grows. So it's all very transparent. It's for everybody to see, and like I said, we truly want them to be partners in our growth, and on the philosophy of doing ESOPs like this is basis this ideology.
wonderful. No, great. I think three things you touched upon. One is keeping it inclusive. You kind of also the quantum wise, I guess. And third is obviously engagement and communication. So thanks for choosing Capita as well. And I hope your employees will see that their wealth accrual happening on the system as well. A good way to communicate. So I want to touch upon the buyback program now, because what really caught my attention is I have not heard of any company doing a buyback program so early in their career. I mean, so early in their journey, right? You are a company born, I think, literally out of the pandemic in the 2 years, and you are already announced your first ESOP buyback program. So my first question, actually, to both of you in a way is, why did you decide to do it so early? And do you want to share any details of the program? What was the response like, and things like that?
You know, when we think about ESOPs again, right? The general perception of ESOP is that it's a tool which helps you with employee retention, and that's true, right? There's nothing wrong in it. Also, it's
Right.
a tool which helps you build in long term wealth. Again, a true fact. But um, we have seen enough examples that sometimes it is only a paper wealth which is there. You're not able to realize that capital, right? It's not a short term capital which is coming into your bank account, right? You're not seeing the real capital here. For us, it was important. It's important to give our employees opportunity so that they can make a long term wealth. They can see uh, large sum of money converting via their ESOPs converting into millions of dollars. But it's also important to give them visibility that it's not something which is on paper only. It's something which you can exercise, you can actually withdraw, and this money can reflect in your bank account, right? So it's a short
Right.
term capital gain as well for you if you want to exercise it. And the second idea was that because we are growing, we are growing X and X percentage year on year, and now, the journey is, the company is moving really, really fast. Why not, when we are raising a funding round, or when we are uh, raising capital to, build grip, uh, and take grip on a next level, why not our employees, right? Why don't we think about doing an ESOP program for them? Why not even think about making a program which is more frequent, right? It should not be a time bound thing that if the IPO will happen, then only you can encash the benefits of it. It should not be like that, right? What I'm seeing in the market, and just coming from your last question, is if you look at the announcement which Udan did very, very recently, right? They're now looking at zero cliff period. I barely know few startups which are doing zero cliff periods. It's generally 1 year or 2 year cliff period with your ESOPs and their vesting, right? How good this is for the ecosystem, how good this is for the employees, right? They'll feel so connected to the company because they'll be able to see the growth of the company, they'll be able to see the growth of their monetary benefits in their bank accounts. So that was the ideology behind doing the ESOP buyback. Nimisha, please feel free to add into this.
Yes, thanks, Vivek. I think when summarized in that sense, just to add to that, it is also to give employees a sense of freedom. So it's not that we give you some ESOPs on paper and we decide what you do with them when you do, because it's yours, right? And I think giving them that sense of freedom, that in case you want to encash them now, that option is available. In case you want to wait it out in the grow in value and then encash it, that's always there. So when we say that we are a people first organization, everything we do has to be with the intention of keeping people as our at the forefront of everything. And I think, like Vivek said, this should not just be capital on paper and say, wait for us to grow to an X size before we start, giving you these options. We believe in the company, our people believe in the company, we know we'll do well, and hence it's open for everybody to exercise at any point in time in that sense. Also, you also mentioned about what was the response. So I think people were very excited that we had actually come up with something like this. So from an intention point of view, they really appreciated our intention around it. The uptake wasn't that much, which is a good thing for us because that just shows that a lot of our employees do believe in us, and they think that grip will grow to bigger size, and then probably this is something they would want to encash, and they want to grow with the firm. So I think them not exercising it too much was also very encouraging for us.
Right. I think very few instances in life where partial success also is a double success, I would say. So I think you can call this, and I'm seeing this as a pattern which also just talks about the maturity of us as an ecosystem, and specifically you as a company, that people want to stay invested. After all, that is also an investment, right? It's not so wonderful to hear all of this. So thanks for generously sharing, because it also goes a long way in communicating these things to the ecosystem, and who knows, many founders will actually emulate some of what you guys have done. And that brings me to the last part actually of like just leaving with any pearls of wisdom. I think each of your responses have been very, very valuable. But anything else you want to add, in terms of your experience of building a good incentive plan? Any founders who are listening to you, what would you want to say to them? And just one other observation actually, you mentioned people first, but you also mentioned that people first workplace actually drives sustainable growth. Now, if you think about it, it's a very deep statement. It's rooted in, like again, people first and that unlocking that non-linear value. So you want to add something to this, and then Vivek, Nimisha, leave it to you to kind of end this with a few, any more things that you might have missed and you want to, communicate to this ecosystem here.
Sure. Um, I can only, tell two, three things. I have a very, very limited sense of time, sense of these things. But and Nimisha can add more. She has, more. She has spent more time in the ecosystem. She understand more about the people and the organizations. For me, I think the most important message which would like to share with the follow founders, co-founders, is that ESOP is a very very meaningful tool. Like this tool can be used to change your employees into stakeholders and drive ownership. They'll own a piece of your organization. So um, one thing which we have done, and I'm really really proud of, is that we have distributed, as Nimisha mentioned, we have distributed ESOPs to each of our employees without looking at the designations, without looking at what work they'll be doing, what role they'll be playing, because all of the employees are important for an organization. And I can, it's already said and been done that it's easy to manage stakeholders and it's rather difficult to manage employees. So why not convert all of your employees into stakeholders, right? The quantum can be of choices, can be very very different from each other, but it's really really meaningful when you give ESOPs to all of your employees, make each of your employee as a owner of the organization. The second point I would like to mention, and I think Nimisha already talked about it, is use platforms, use technology to drive these tools. It brings two things. One is it sets you up in a dimension where, because you're working in the technology, you're working with technology day in day out. Why not for your team members first? Right? Why not for your team? So use platforms like Jupyter, which we are using. When we did our first webinar, first session for Jupyter for our team members, everyone was on that call. There was 0 person who was not on that call, right? uh, Generally in your meetings, one or two people will miss those meetings, and this shows that people are really really interested in programs like ESOPs, and really interested when you give them more visibility towards their ESOPs, their shares, and using technology for doing that. So the second request is to start using tools like Jupyter, so that they can build more transparency, give more visibility to the employees. Um, as you mentioned that about the article, um, when we were writing that piece, I think our with our PR agency, the first thought came into my mind writing that piece was that it's difficult to make a people first organization when you choose your team members before your profit and your product. It's difficult, right? Sometimes you have pressure from X, from Y, and from Z, which you have to manage, and sometimes you see the negative situations of this is really really difficult to make a people first organizations. But in a long run, it's definitely worth it, because your people define the journey of your company, and they decide the goal you will achieve in the future. So these are the things which I think I wanted to mention for all my parallel co-founders. Nimisha, please feel free to add into this.
Thanks, Vivek. Very well summarized. I don't know how much I'll be able to add. But like he mentioned, I think ESOPs are a great tool to create that sense of belonging in the people who work for you. And I think as organizations, we should absolutely utilize them to the maximum to create that whole culture of belongingness and that sense of stakeholder ship that comes in an organization. The second bit around it is make sure as an organization when you're allocating ESOPs, working around them, it's an absolute transparent process. I think transparency in something like this is of immense importance, and it just goes on to reflect the organization's intentions and authenticness, and also build that kind of trust with your employees. So there should be no perceived sense of things not being transparent. So I think transparency plays a key role, and whatever we do around this program, we should ensure that everything is transparent and visible to all. And again, like Vivek mentioned, that using technology is a great idea because then it takes out that human intervention, and it's transparent for everybody to see in that sense. Um, the third thing, coming back to what I mentioned, that I think going forward, and I think the only living dynamic thing in an organization is people. Everything else is just a non-living entity. So I think people will be the competitive edge that will take your organization to the next level. Whatever people policies you have, or whatever ideologies around people function you have, make sure that everything is implemented with the right intention, and the impact is spent in the last user, right? So there shouldn't just be a certain section of people enjoying certain benefits, and the last end user in the organization, or the lowest grade of the employee, isn't feeling the impact. And that's the reason that we even extended our ESOP policy to employees across the organization. So because everybody is important, and everybody is going to help us in our growth journey. So yeah.
Wonderful. Vivek, Nimisha, absolute pleasure to listen to all of these, your own experiences that's reflecting in the way you're stating this. I'm sure these are all very relevant inputs to founders, HR leaders who are listening to you and looking to build their own rocket ships, as we call them these days, to their journey of, whatever that could be, whatever the growth that they are envisaging. So thank you so much. And I'm assuming that, this buyback is not one of its kind. I'm sure there are multiple such events in the offing, perhaps yearly or so, right?
Yeah, we are trying to make them as frequent as we can. Definitely looking at doing more and more ESOP buybacks for our employees.
Wonderful. That's a great note to end, because it's an input to all your employees as well, and also potential people, who might be looking at Grip as a place to kind of spend their time. So pleasure talking to you, Vivek, Nimisha. Thanks for sharing all the insights and being very generous with time as well. We hope to kind of share it with the ecosystem, and pay this forward, and build this more and more fables of ESOP, as we call it, right? So thank you both for being part of this, and have a good day, both of you.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much,
Shrikant.
Shrikant. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thanks for having us over. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Bye.
bye.